James and I have been happily married for nearly 40 years, until he fell ill and underwent 3 years of treatment in the hospital. We finally managed to get him well again. But on the day he was discharged, he asked me for a divorce. Without Lily by my side these past 3 years, I wouldn't have made it through. She has no children, and I just want to give her a proper home. Lily was his roommate in the hospital ward over the past 6 months, but I couldn't understand. During his hospitalization, it was me who washed his body every day and took care of his basic needs. Lily, on the other hand, just lay in bed, encouraging him every day. That was all she did. I had planned to ask Ethan to stand up for me. But after learning about this, Ethan instead urged me. Dad just recovered from his illness. His body isn't fully healed yet. The doctor said he needs to stay happy. Just accompany him through the divorce. It's just a formality. Oh, and my wife is experiencing morning sickness again. Remember to cook for her tomorrow. Hearing the words of this father and son, I suddenly realized it turns out that ingratitude is hereditary. So I nodded. All right, I agreed to the divorce. Before picking up James from the hospital, I specially bought a bouquet of flowers outside the hospital. They were the yellow roses he used to love the most. It was to celebrate his discharge. After buying the flowers, I went straight back to the hospital to pick him up. Seeing me return, James, who had already packed his things, immediately waved at Lily. It's time for us to leave the hospital. Upon hearing this, Lily immediately grabbed her luggage and walked toward me. Having spent 3 years in the hospital, Lily and Jong-ji had become close as roommates. When they were suffering from their illnesses, they would encourage each other. And since I came to the hospital every day to take care of James, I had also become familiar with Lily. Seeing her carrying her luggage, I realized that she was also being discharged today. Congratulations, you finally made it through the tough times. You can go home today. It was supposed to be a happy occasion. But Lily's expression suddenly turned grim, and she glared at James. You haven't told her yet? The question came out of nowhere. I was completely confused. I turned my puzzled gaze toward James, hoping he could explain. Gee, is there something you two haven't told me? Upon hearing this, James didn't respond immediately. Instead, he took the flowers from my arms and shoved them into Lily's arms in front of me. Don't be angry. Here, I'm just passing on the flowers. They're for you. After saying that, he quickly turned to look at me, his expression serious. Grace, I want to divorce you. Hearing his words, I froze. Why would he want to divorce me out of the blue? Perhaps my expression was too puzzled. Or maybe James was ready to throw caution to the wind. He took a deep breath and said, After being in the hospital for so long, if it weren't for Lily by my side, I wouldn't have made it through. She has no children, and I want to give her a home. It's also a way to thank her for staying by my side. So, I can only apologize to you. But don't worry, we've talked it over. Even if we divorce, I won't abandon you. This made me laugh. Over the past 6 months, James had been bedridden due to his illness, and for several months, he was completely paralyzed. And I, his wife, Grace. I cared for him day and night without rest. I wiped his body, helped him with his bathroom needs, and never once complained. In just 3 years, I feel like I've aged a decade. Now, after finally enduring all this, James is finally able to leave the hospital. Life will gradually improve from here on out. Yet now, he wants to divorce me for another woman. All because Lily was his hospital roommate. During his time of suffering, they encouraged each other, and he developed a sense of gratitude toward her. But all my sacrifices can be completely ignored. This is utterly absurd. Lying in bed every day, encouraging each other? Is that what you call being there for me? You're grateful enough to divorce me? What about the 3 years I spent taking care of you? James, what do you think I am? I'm not a young girl in my 20s. When it comes to marriage, I can't be so impulsive. I even tried to reason with him. but James seems determined. Holding Lily's hand tightly, he spoke seriously once more. Grace, I'm not joking with you. Divorcing you and marrying Lily is the result of careful consideration. We've been married for so many years, we're no different from family. Not having a legal title won't affect us. But Lily is different, and I only want to give her a legal title, that's all. After 40 years of marriage, I still know James well. He truly wants to divorce me and marry Lily. So I went to find Ethan. Jung Shuanjo, James, and my only precious son, Ethan. He's smart and filial. He's closer to me. He'll definitely take my side. Originally, he was supposed to come with me today to pick up James from the hospital. But this morning, Sophia suddenly started bleeding. Worried something might be wrong with the baby, I discussed it with him and we decided to split up. He accompanied Sophia to the obstetrics and gynecology department. I took James home first. Once he finished there, after sending Sophia home to rest, he would come to the house where James and I lived to visit his father. Now that this unexpected situation has arisen, I immediately called Zhong Xuanzhou and told him to come to the hospital right away. Not long after, Zhong Xuanzhou rushed over, with beads of sweat on his forehead. I just dropped Xian Wei off at home when I received your call saying something serious had happened. I was so worried I rushed over immediately. What happened? Zhong Xuanzhou looked at me with concern. Seeing Ethan, I couldn't help but feel wronged, but at my age, I felt it would be embarrassing to cry. So I forced myself not to shed tears. I simply pointed at James and Lily in front of me and recounted everything they had said earlier. Upon hearing the entire story, Zhong Xuanzhou's expression grew somber. I had assumed that Ethan, whom I had raised with my own hands, would stand by my side after learning about this matter. After all, his father's actions were simply too outrageous. But I never expected. Zhong Xuanzhou not only didn't get angry, but after a moment's thought, he even tried to comfort me. Mom, I thought it was something big. Turns out Dad just wants to stay with Aunt Zhao. He paused for a moment, then nodded toward Lily. Over the past half year, Zhong Xuanzhou had visited his father multiple times and had gotten to know Lily. He would politely call her Aunt Lily. But hearing that title now felt especially jarring. Yet Zhong Xuanzhou didn't seem to notice my distress. The look he gave me even carried a hint of a smile, as if I were an ignorant child. Dad just recovered from his illness. His body isn't fully healed yet. The doctor said he needs to stay happy to aid his recovery. Just divorce him. It's just a formality. Dad has already discussed this with me. I thought since he's not feeling well, having Aunt Lily move in to keep him company and chat would be no different from when she was in the hospital, so I agreed. As for the divorce, Mom, you and Dad have been together for 40 years. Could a divorce certificate really change that? But Aunt Lily is different. She has no legal status to live here, and people will talk. Zhong Xuanzhou spoke in one breath. Every word was sincere. After finishing, he seemed to think of something, suddenly slapped the back of his head, and quickly grabbed my hand. Oh, right, Xianhua has been suffering from severe morning sickness lately and wants to eat the food you cook. Remember to come to our house early tomorrow to cook for us. Looking at Ethan's matter-of-fact expression, I suddenly found it amusing. So, it turns out that ingratitude is hereditary. At that moment, I suddenly felt there was nothing to dwell on or cling to. Since they all think I should divorce him, then, let's divorce. When I stepped out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I was still a bit dazed. 40 years of love with James. I never thought it would be defeated by his 3-year friendship with Lily. Ji Hua, in a month, will officially handle the divorce. After that, the 3 of us will still live together, just like before. When James said this, there was a hint of guilt in his eyes. But when his gaze fell on Lily beside him, he couldn't suppress the smile in his eyes, and even took her hand in front of me. She, in a month, will truly be a family. Lily, who had remained silent all along, was moved to tears and gripped his hand tightly. She said with deep emotion, "Gigi, I'm so lucky to have met you in this lifetime." As an onlooker, Zhong Xuanzhou, watching this scene unfold, he even wiped away a tear from the corner of his eye, as if moved or filled with emotion. He even nudged my shoulder with his arm. "Mom, look, even in middle age, people can still have such passionate love." I didn't respond, just silently watching them. James and I met in high school, went through college together, and got married after graduation. The following year, we had Zhong Xuanzhou. He had a gentle temperament, never argued with me, and rarely stayed out late alone. He valued our little family above all else. 40 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Though our hair has turned white and our teeth have fallen out, our love remains unchanged. I had always believed we would grow old together. Until our hair was completely white, our teeth were gone, we walked with bent backs and canes, and sat together enjoying our grandchildren. Finally, we would be buried together. This was the ending I had imagined, happy and peaceful. Alas, fate had other plans. As for Zhong Xuanzhou, the Ethan I had poured my heart and soul into, he has left me utterly disappointed. I don't expect him to be overly filial in his daily life. But at this moment, he couldn't empathize with me at all, cold as a stone. I couldn't help but feel heartbroken. So when Zhong Xuanzhou spoke up, saying he would drive us all home, I shook my head without hesitation. Since we've decided to divorce, there's no need to live together anymore. Hearing this, Zhong Xuanzhou spoke up first. "If you're not going back to your parents' house with Dad, are you going to come back to my house with Xianhua? You know she has a bad temper and doesn't want to live with the elderly. Plus, she's pregnant now. It's the Johnson family's first grandchild. Don't be so stubborn, okay? Sophia, my daughter-in-law. She's very beautiful. But she's always been guarded toward me. On her first visit, she was testing me with every word, afraid I was a wicked mother-in-law. After the wedding, she even said outright she didn't want to live with the elders. But I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. After all, young couples should have their own space. So besides the 300,000 yuan dowry and 100,000 yuan in gold and jewelry, even their wedding home was entirely arranged by me. Every penny was from my dowry. Originally, I wanted to buy them a fully paid-off house outright. But Sophia objected, saying that would make it Ethan's premarital property. So at her insistence, I paid the down payment first, then transferred the monthly mortgage payments to her each month, so she could pay them off. This way, the house would become joint property. Ethan was fine with it, so I went along with their arrangement, just transferring a fixed amount each month to help with the mortgage payments. The last payment was made this morning. And 1 month later, on the day Zhong Xuanzhou and I officially divorce, I naturally won't acknowledge that ungrateful Ethan anymore. As for the mortgage, I won't pay a single cent more. Whether they have enough money to pay the mortgage each month is none of my business. And from the day they got married until now, I've only stayed at their place once. It was because Sophia was pregnant at the time, and in the middle of the night, she suddenly wanted to eat the food I cooked, so Zhong Xuanzhou insisted on bringing me over. After I finished cooking, it was already midnight, and they finally let me stay for the night. This time, I plan to leave and have no intention of staying with Ethan's wife. After all, in my heart, Zhong Xuanzhou is a heartless, ungrateful person. But hearing him say that still made me feel a bit sad. Over the years, I've not only invested my energy, but also spent a fortune, only to end up raising such a person. It's truly laughable when I think about it. But I quickly composed myself and told him, "Don't worry, I won't go to your house." Hearing my words, James couldn't help but furrow his brows. "If you won't come back with me and you won't go to Ethan's house, do you really want to go back to that rundown house your parents left you?" Back when I first got married, my parents were diagnosed with serious illnesses one after another. Therefore, They decided to transfer the house they were living in to me, signing an agreement to do so. Jung Xuanzhou also signed the agreement. That house was my premarital property, and no one could take it away from me. But over the years, that house has depreciated and is now worth very little. Jung Xuanzhou nodded in agreement. Mom, your parents are gone. Your grandparents only left you that small house, which has been uninhabited for years and is now in such a dilapidated state that it's unfit for human habitation. Plus, over the past few years, besides paying for Dad's medical treatment and helping me pay off the mortgage, you haven't saved much. You can't afford to stay in a hotel. Besides, Dad just recovered from his illness and needs someone to take care of him. If you leave, who will take care of him? Don't be stubborn. Come back home with Dad. The father and son spoke back and forth. It seemed like they were speaking from the heart. In reality, neither of them took me seriously. Even Lily, who was watching the scene unfold, couldn't help but give me a disdainful smile. It was as if I was completely useless. In the eyes of my husband and Ethan, whom I had lived with for years, I was worthless. So I didn't bother with them anymore. Instead, I pulled out my phone and called a ride right in front of them. Perhaps seeing that I wasn't listening to their pleas, James's expression darkened and his tone grew harsh. I told you to act like before, but you insist on throwing a tantrum. If you want to leave, then go. Gigi, it's all my fault that Jiwa is upset. I should leave. After all, that home was always hers, and I'm just an outsider. As soon as James finished speaking, Lily wiped away her tears and said this. She looked so pitiful. Even my Ethan couldn't help but speak up for her. Aunt Lily, why are you leaving? It's my mom who's being unreasonable. Why are you letting her get away with it? After saying that, Zhong Xuanzhou turned to look at me. If you really want to cause trouble, then go ahead. Just don't call me later asking me to pick you up. It seemed like he was trying to provoke me, as if he was certain I couldn't leave them. I ignored him completely. The taxi had arrived, and I stepped down the stairs, ready to get in. Zhong Xuanzhou spoke again. You can throw a tantrum, but remember to come to my house early tomorrow morning to cook for Xianwei. Don't forget. My hand paused as I reached for the car door. I turned around and looked at him expressionlessly. I'm not going. Mom, what are you doing? Zhong Xuanzhou looked exasperated and scratched the back of his head. Xuanzhou, if you believe Aunt Lily, let me cook for Xianwei tomorrow. I'm a pretty good cook, and she should like it. Lily spoke up at the right moment, looking every inch the devoted wife and mother. Zhong Xuanzhou played along perfectly. Sure, Lily, you're so kind-hearted. No wonder my dad fell for you. The last few words were deliberately emphasized. A heart already shattered beyond repair wouldn't break again over a few words. I opened the car door, got in and closed the door. The actions were seamless. As the car started, I faintly heard James speaking at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. He said, Jiwa has always been so dependent on me. She's just throwing a tantrum. She'll definitely come back soon. But he didn't know that this time, I really wouldn't be coming back. The car slowly drove away from the Civil Affairs Bureau. I leaned my head against the window, watching the scenery outside pass by, feeling a mix of emotions. All these years, the happiness I thought I had was as fragile as a bubble. But at least it wasn't too late. A month later, James and I officially divorced. Now, with the world at my feet, I could live however I pleased. The next moment, my phone buzzed with 2 notifications. The first was a message from James's attending physician at the hospital. It said that although James had been discharged, his body was still weak and required careful attention. Otherwise, he could relapse at any moment. In severe cases, it could be life-threatening. Attached was a 3-page list of precautions. The second message was from Aunt Martha, the neighbor of the house my parents had left me. It contained only one sentence. Jihua, our neighborhood is being demolished. Half an hour later, I returned to the old house my parents had left me. Although no one had lived there for a long time, it wasn't dirty or cluttered, because this was the only thing my parents had left me. So every now and then, I would clean it up. Now it has become my only place to stay. As for Aunt Martha's mention of demolition, I had heard rumors about it 2 months ago, but at the time, it wasn't certain that it would happen. So I didn't tell James or Jong-Shu and Joe about it. I didn't want them to get their hopes up for nothing. Now, there's no need to tell them at all. As for the doctor's message, I only skimmed it briefly before deleting it. Since I've decided to divorce James, his health is no longer my concern. In other words, whether he lives or dies has nothing to do with me. After making up my mind, I didn't dwell on it further. The house has been cleaned regularly. But since no one had lived there, I decided to give it a thorough cleaning now that I was back. By the time I finished, nearly an hour had passed. Saying I wasn't tired would be a lie. After all, at my age, I didn't feel like pushing myself any further, so I sat down on the sofa to rest for a moment. Just as I sat down, James's phone rang. I had intended to hang up immediately, but I had just washed my hands and hadn't had time to dry them with a paper towel. My fingers were too slippery, and I accidentally touched the phone. By the time I realized what had happened, the call had already been answered. Zihua, why didn't you put today's medicine in the small box? And there's nothing in the fridge. I can't even cook a meal. Oh, and the washing machine. I remember it wasn't this one before. Is it broken? But I don't know how to use this new one. Do you know? James, don't forget, we've already decided to get a divorce. Finally unable to bear it anymore, I cut him off. He paused, looking confused. He asked back, so what? So I have no obligation or responsibility to help you with these things, do you understand? In the past, we were husband and wife. So when he was sick, I took care of him in the hospital without complaint, afraid he might mix up his medicine, so I would prepare his daily doses in small boxes every day. All he had to do was take the medicine at the designated time according to the labels. As for the empty refrigerator, that's because I spent most of my time at the hospital taking care of him. When I occasionally came home, I would just eat something simple and didn't even bother to buy groceries. Today's plan was to pick him up and take him home, then buy some fresh groceries at the nearby supermarket. It's not that I didn't want to eat out. It's just that his health is poor, so his meals must be light, and he has many dietary restrictions. Therefore, home-cooked meals are healthier and more reassuring to eat. However, since we're already going through a divorce, we're no longer a family. Why should I continue to be responsible for these things? My voice was cold, with not a trace of the patience or tenderness I had shown earlier. James seemed momentarily unable to adapt, remaining silent on the other end of the line for a long while before finally speaking. But we agreed before that even though we're divorcing, we're still family. You're the one who threw a tantrum and left home, aren't you? If we're divorcing, then who's still family? I couldn't help but mock him with a laugh. James, do you think we're still in the old days, where a man can have 2 wives? I directly exposed the dark thoughts lurking in his heart. Hit where it hurt, James grew furious, his tone growing harsh as he spoke. Fine, Grace. I was just worried you'd be bullied out there, so I called to give you a way out. I didn't expect you to be so ungrateful. Since you're so stubborn, don't come back. With that, he hung up without a second thought. I still felt a bit sad. After so many years, he was both my lover and my family. Being betrayed by him like this, I couldn't just let it go so easily. But no matter what happens, I've made up my mind, I won't look back. I put down the phone and went to take a shower. While packing my things, I got a bit dirty. After such a tiring day, I just wanted to lie down in bed and rest. After the shower, I changed into fresh pajamas. Sitting on the bed with my phone, I planned to scroll through my social media feed for a bit before sleeping, as usual. But as soon as I opened it, I saw James's post. It seemed to be from a high-end hotel with a table filled with delicious-looking dishes that looked incredibly tempting. In the bottom left corner of the photo were two hands tightly intertwined. The next moment, James sent me a WeChat message with the same photo. Along with the message, "Since you don't want to come back, then it's perfect. She and I can enjoy some alone time." I chose not to respond. I just stared at the food in the photo. If I remember correctly, there were many things in there that he couldn't eat. But I didn't feel the need to remind him. In the days that followed, James acted like a young man in love, frequently posting affectionate photos on his social media. Sometimes he would take Lily out to eat delicious meals. Other times, he would take her shopping. As I scrolled through his posts, I estimated how much they had spent during that period. Before James fell ill, our family life was quite affluent. Both of us had jobs, and with our savings, we lived comfortably. But after he fell ill and underwent multiple surgeries, our savings were nearly depleted. Now he's still spending money so recklessly. I suppose there's not much left in the savings account. That's precisely why. When I went to the mall to buy some clothes and daily necessities, I happened to spot James and Lily outside a jewelry store. James looked distressed. The moment he saw me, he hurriedly waved at me. I ignored him. He rushed over, grabbed my arm, and pulled me into the jewelry store. Then he pointed at me and spoke to the shop assistant. "Look, the person who's paying is here. How could I possibly afford these jewelry pieces?" As he spoke, I discreetly observed Lily. During her hospital stay, she had no children to care for her, so her life wasn't easy. Now, she was being well taken care of by James. She had gained some weight. Her clothes were all designer brands. The tray in front of her held several pieces of gold jewelry, including a necklace, earrings, a bracelet, and a ring. Ji said that since he wants to marry me, we can't skip the necessary procedures and rituals. That's why he dragged me here today to pick out 5 pieces of gold jewelry. Noticing my gaze, Lily smiled and spoke, then continued to play with the bracelets on the tray. The pieces she chose were all quite heavy. But gold prices have been sky-high lately, and with so many pieces together, it would easily cost over 100,000. James couldn't possibly have that much savings. He doesn't know the market, probably didn't bring much money, and is just putting on a show. He happened to run into me. He was probably hoping I'd pay for them. After figuring out the situation, I directly told the sales clerk, "This is my ex-husband." To be precise, the divorce papers haven't been finalized yet. The woman next to him is his soon-to-be wife. Do you think I'd pay for them? The sales clerk wasn't expecting this. Hearing my words, she couldn't help but freeze for a moment. Then, she discreetly glanced at James and Lily. The look of contempt in her eyes, though subtle, didn't escape me. Lily hadn't expected me to be so direct and felt embarrassed. Her face turned red, and she pulled on James's arm, looking like she was about to cry. Gigi. James saw this and immediately scolded me. "Grace, I never knew you were such a sharp-tongued person. Lily treats you like an older sister and has always respected you. Do you really need to embarrass her like this in front of others?" Before I could respond, a young couple who had also come into the store to look at hardware spoke up first. "Bringing your mistress to a jewelry store to pick out jewelry and making your wife pay for it? How can there be such a shameless man in this world?" The young woman spoke loudly, and other onlookers couldn't help but laugh upon hearing her words. Even James could no longer maintain his previous composure. His face turned red as well, and he glared at me before hurriedly dragging Lily away. For the next half-month, I didn't see them again. Not until the day I went to get the divorce certificate. The procedures were handled quickly. After James received the divorce certificate, he immediately went to register for marriage. When I tried to leave, I was stopped by Zhong Xuanzhou and Sophia. "Mom, don't be so stubborn. Even though you and Dad are divorced and no longer husband and wife, You're still family. Jung Xiuanzhou pleaded with me earnestly. After he finished speaking, Sophia nodded and gently stroked her barely noticeable abdomen, smiling as she spoke. Even if you don't want to acknowledge Dad, Sophia and I are still your Ethan's wife. At least give us some face and come home. After saying this, Sophia walked over to me, took my hand, and placed it on her abdomen. Mom, feel it? Your grandson is here. How could you bear to abandon him? There was no distinct sensation in my hand. For this unborn child, I had indeed felt a deep connection in the past. That was because this child carried Ethan's blood in his veins. But now I see clearly. Jung Xiuanzhou, even though he is my flesh and blood, he cannot empathize with his mother. He is a heartless bastard. So, what significance does his bloodline hold for me? After all, the genes passed down from his father are nothing but vicious. I don't even want my husband or Ethan. How could I possibly care about this unborn grandson? I withdrew my hand and turned to leave. Sophia seemed to want to stop me. But Jung Xiuanzhou blocked her. What are you doing? If you let your mother leave now, who's going to pay for the private room later? Zhou Xiuanzhou, do you have a brain? You're driving your own mother away, and later you'll have to pay for your father and stepmother to celebrate in a private room. Are you a sucker? Hurry up and bring her back, or else who's going to pay the mortgage for us? Sophia had deliberately lowered her voice, but I still heard everything clearly. Similarly, I also heard Jung Xiuanzhou's response. He said, "What's there to be afraid of? I'm my mother's only Ethan. Even if she resents my father, she wouldn't abandon me. The mortgage, she'll definitely help us pay it off. Once our Ethan is born, there will be so many expenses, and my mother wouldn't abandon us either." All I could say was, it's true that in a big forest, there are all kinds of birds. This time, it was truly a complete farewell to the past. I returned home with the divorce certificate. My luggage was already packed, and I had already arranged a car to take me to the airport. In the past, I loved traveling to various places. Jung Sunji also enjoyed it. We were like-minded, so our relationship had remained stable over the years. However, later on, he fell ill. He could only stay in the hospital, and as his wife, I had to be by his side. All those places and landscapes we hadn't had the chance to see were put on hold. I've often thought that maybe I'll never travel again in my lifetime. After all, his illness drained our savings, and we still need to take care of him properly. We can't afford to travel around the country. But now things are different. After the divorce, I got my fair share, and I also have some money saved up, so I don't have to worry about much. All I need to do is be happy. Anyway, the compensation money from the demolition will be coming soon. Indulging myself a little now isn't something I can't accept. At the airport, I had some time to spare. I found a place to sit down and decided to check my phone to kill time. Then I saw Zhou Xiuanzhou send me a photo. In the photo, he and Sophia were standing behind Lily and James. It looked like a family portrait. Zhou Xiuanzhou immediately sent 2 more messages. Mom, if you hadn't thrown a tantrum, you would have been in this family portrait today. By the way, this month's mortgage payment is due. Don't forget to transfer the money. Reading those 2 messages, I lowered my head and remained silent for a while. The last remnants of pain in my heart. At that moment, it finally vanished completely. In other words, I let go. I let go of myself. I accepted my failed marriage and acknowledged that I had given birth to a heartless Ethan. But from now on, all of that would be in the past. The boarding time was approaching. So I turned off my phone and boarded the flight to the United States. I could live well on my own. It had been 2 months since I returned to China. Regarding the house demolition, I still needed to return to China to sign some documents before the compensation could be dispersed smoothly. During those 2 months abroad, to maintain peace and quiet, I had purchased another phone and a new SIM card in advance. It wasn't until I returned to China and stepped off the plane that I turned on my old phone again. As soon as I did, I saw a string of messages. Jong Shuanjo had sent dozens of messages. Mom, why haven't you transferred the money to Xianwei yet? She's already upset. Mom, the mortgage payment is about to be overdue. Hurry up and transfer the money. What's going on? Why aren't you replying? Why aren't you answering the phone? If you don't transfer the money soon, Xianwei will start arguing with me. What are you doing? Reply to the messages. I used my own money to cover the mortgage payment. Make sure to repay me once you see this stuff. Mom, where have you gone? Mom, something's happened at home. Please come back immediately. Also, I really need money right now. Xianwei is arguing with me, saying that if I can't get the money, she'll divorce me and abort your only grandson. My father, that old fool, mortgaged the house. Xianwei wants to divorce me. Mom, please call me back as soon as you see this message. Dozens of messages followed, showing that Zhong Xuanzhou was becoming increasingly anxious, as if something terrible had happened. In addition, James also sent me a message. Jiwa, how should I take these 2 bottles of medicine? I can't quite remember. Attached image, 2 medicine bottles. The weather has turned cooler recently, and my old clothes are too big for me now. Lily isn't very good at buying clothes for me. Could you buy me a few more? I don't know why, but I've been feeling really unwell lately. How did you use to massage me? Jihua, do you have any money left? Jihua, I've run into some trouble. Even though we're divorced, we're still family. Could you lend me some money to get by? Jihua. I scanned through them one by one but didn't plan to reply. Just looking at the messages between the father and son, I was certain that something major had indeed happened. So I sent a message to the familiar neighbor across the hall. Soon, I found out why. After I left, James and Lily spent a few days in happiness and peace. But Lily wasn't someone to be messed with. She wanted to control the money, but there wasn't much left in the household, so she set her sights on Zhong Xuanzhou. She claimed that Ethan should be supporting his father. But Sophia wasn't someone easy to deal with either. Upon learning of this, she came to Lily's house while pregnant and caused a scene, then used her pregnancy as an excuse to demand that Lily do her laundry and cooking. Now that Lily has a marriage certificate and a legitimate status, she started acting like a mother-in-law. She refused to do any of the chores. Instead, she demanded that Sophia serve her. The 2 of them argued repeatedly, leaving Zhou Jiji and Zhou Xuanzhou caught in the middle, torn between them. Not only that. Less than a month later, a man came knocking on the door. The man claimed to be Lily's Ethan. Lily acknowledged him. It turned out she wasn't childless after all. Though she hadn't married in her youth, she had indeed given birth to a son named Ethan. However, Ethan was a gambler who had squandered the family fortune and behaved like a scoundrel. Upon learning his mother had remarried, he came demanding a dowry from James. James had no money left, so Lily cried. Having been married for only a short time, she was swayed by her husband's persuasion and ended up selling the house. Originally, she only intended to give a portion. However, Lily's Ethan had accumulated more gambling debts outside. He cried in front of Lily and took all the money. Upon learning of this, Sophia was so enraged she nearly miscarried. She felt it was unfair, believing that Zhou Xuanzhou was Zhou Jiji's biological Ethan. Even if the house was sold, the money should have been given entirely to her. So now she's threatening to kill herself and demanding that James give her an equal share. Otherwise, she'll abort the child in her womb. To make matters worse, Zhou Xuanzhou, feeling unwell, went to the hospital for a checkup and discovered he had developed azoospermia, meaning he would never be able to have children. Thus, the child in Sophia's womb became the Johnson family's only heir. Holding this over him, Sophia started causing all sorts of trouble. James wanted this grandson, so he had no choice but to borrow money from loan sharks. Originally, he planned to give the money to Sophia to calm her down and help her give birth. However, Lily's Ethan lost money again and came to Lily first, taking the money. Now, these people have been causing a commotion at home time and again. It had become a laughingstock in the neighborhood. Having sorted out all the details, I could only sigh at the unpredictability of life, but at least none of this had anything to do with me. However, I never expected Jung Xiuanzhou to come to the old house to confront me. "Mom, where have you been all this time?" Seeing Jung Xiuanzhou again, the once confident and ambitious man now had an unkempt beard and was dressed shabbily. He looked like all the life had been sucked out of him. When he saw me, he hurried over as if he had a lot to say. "Where I went is none of your business." My voice was cold, but he seemed not to hear me and continued speaking on his own. "Mom, you don't know what happened while you were gone. There were so many things going on at home. I used to think Lily was at least kind and considerate, so I agreed to let Dad marry her. But she turned out to be a liar. She has a gambler boyfriend named Ethan, and she's been manipulating Dad behind his back, even selling the house. Xianwei is arguing with me every day, saying that if I don't get the money, she'll divorce me and abort our only child, Ethan. Mom, I really don't know what to do. Because of all this, I've been so stressed that I've been making mistakes at work and have been fired. Before, you helped me pay the mortgage, and I was managing okay. Now I've paid 2 months on my own, plus Xianyue's constant drama, and she's had multiple miscarriages. Each trip to the hospital is a huge expense. There's really no money left at home. Mom, I truly know I was wrong. But can you please help me first? Help me pay the mortgage, and can you come stay with us to take care of Xianwei? I really don't have the energy anymore. Zhong Xuanzhou said this with a face that looked like he was about to cry. Back then, with my constant financial support, the young couple lived a comfortable life. Now that so many things have happened and he's been fired, their life is clearly very difficult. However, I don't feel the slightest bit of pity. After all, this is all their own doing. So I didn't respond, just coldly staring at him, finding it amusing. Mom, what are you laughing at? Zhong Xuanzhou seemed confused, then tried to play the emotional card and even threatened me. The child in Xianyue's womb is your own grandson, and it might very well be the only heir of the Johnsons. How can you bear to let me cut off the family line? I nodded, smiling sarcastically. You said it yourself, this is the Johnson family's heir. What does it have to do with me, Grace? Besides, with your family's terrible genes, if they could be eradicated sooner, I think that's a good thing. Perhaps he hadn't expected me to speak so harshly. Zhong Xuanzhou stood there frozen for a long time. So long that he didn't notice James's arrival. Jihua, you're finally back. After 2 months apart, James had aged drastically, his cheeks sunken and his body emaciated to nothing but bones. Unlike me, who had gained 10 pounds from eating and drinking during my trip. After saying that, he strode toward me and tried to take my hand, but I dodged him. Jihua, I didn't realize before how hard life would be without you. During this time, I went through a lot. I felt sorry for Lily when she said she just wanted a home, but I never expected her to lie to me, and there's even an Ethan. Now the house is in such a mess, and I feel my health deteriorating. Sometimes I realize that the only time I feel at ease is when you're by my side. Jihua, I really know I was wrong. If you're willing to come home, I'll divorce her immediately. Although I sold my house, there's still the old house your parents left you. We can live off that. James, how dare you show your face here and say these things to me? You even have the nerve to say you want to live in the house my parents left me. I was so angry I couldn't help but laugh. I couldn't help myself and slapped him across the face. But I controlled my strength. After all, with his current condition, I was afraid one slap might send him to the afterlife. His death wouldn't matter. But I'm about to receive the demolition compensation and a new house. I don't want to waste any more of my precious time. After being slapped, James clearly didn't react. I didn't want to continue arguing with them. So I just said, James, we're already divorced. Before the divorce, we divided the property clearly. So there's no relationship between us now. If you keep harassing me, I'll call the police and post your infidelity online. I think at your age, you still want to save some face, right? As for you, Jung Xuanzhou, although we are related by blood, you are a thankless bastard. I would rather have never given birth to you. Besides, you're in your early 30s now, and I have no obligation to support you anymore. If you keep asking me for money, I'll post your story online too, and you'll never be able to show your face in public again. I spoke harshly, leaving no room for negotiation, and even pulled out my phone, ready to dial 110. Seeing this, James seemed to want to say something. But his phone rang. Zhong Xuanzhou's phone also rang. Both of them answered the calls at the same time, their expressions changing instantly. Then they turned and ran out the door together. It looked like something big had happened. I didn't bother to find out what it was. After all, I had important matters to attend to. Regarding the demolition, I filled out several forms and signed my name multiple times. Soon, the demolition compensation arrived. It was an 8-digit sum. At the same time, I was allocated a nice riverside apartment. Life was going smoothly. Just in case, I discarded my old phone and SIM card and moved out of the old house. No one knew my current address. 2 months later, while walking down the street, I saw 2 men who looked like homeless people fighting. They had lived together for so many years. I recognized them immediately. You old fool. At your age, you still have such a wandering eye. If you hadn't insisted on divorcing my mother, none of this would have happened. I'm your father. How do you speak to me like that? And what makes you think you're any better? When I said I wanted to divorce your mother, you agreed without hesitation. Spit. You old shameless man. If you hadn't brought that woman into the house, my mother wouldn't have left. The house would still be intact, and my wife wouldn't have aborted the child and run off with her ex-boyfriend. It's all your fault. That's because you couldn't keep her. Why should I be blamed? As they exchanged words, the bystanders pieced together the rest of the story. The 2 phone calls that day. One was from Lily. She was asking for money again. To save Ethan, who had lost another bet, she even went so far as to take out a high-interest loan and deceive James into signing the papers. Now both of them are being hounded by loan sharks. As for Zhong Xuanzhou's side, Sophia, realizing there was no hope of getting the money, happened to run into her former lover, whom she had once deeply loved. She decided to divorce him and even hit the child. The 2 incidents collided, and father and son began to blame each other. Before long, they were fighting on the street. I just smiled, thinking that karma was catching up with them, and decided to walk away. Mom. Ji-hua. Just as I turned around, the 2 of them called out to me. Zhong Xuanzhou, being younger, though his leg was injured from the fight, quickly ran to me, his eyes filled with shock. Mom, when did you buy this bag? I remember this bag cost tens of thousands of dollars. And the bracelet you're wearing is also very expensive. James heard this and was equally shocked. The elderly woman who was traveling with me also knew about my family's situation and couldn't help but sneer. Oh, you didn't know, did you? Maybe after leaving you, Ji-hua finally escaped his bad luck. The house his parents left him was demolished. Now Ji-hua is officially a wealthy woman. Hearing this, Zhong Xuanzhou was very excited. Mom, is it true? I nodded and said to him, it's true, but this is my money. Even if I can't spend it all in my lifetime, I won't leave a single penny to you. I don't even plan to stay in this city any longer. James walked over at that moment. An old man, his face flushed red. He hesitated for a moment before speaking. Ji-hua, we've been like family for all these years. Can't you spare me some money to pay off my debt? I laughed. Do you even have any dignity left? Ridiculous. I didn't bother with this ungrateful father and son. Instead, I grabbed my old friend and got into my newly purchased car. From then on, no matter how destitute they became, it had nothing to do with me. The worse off they were, the happier I would be. A long time passed. During this period, the ungrateful father and son tried to track me down. However, I had already left the city long ago, sold the riverside apartment, and moved to another city to buy a small villa, planning to retire there. From an old friend, I learned that after I left, James fell ill again. Already exhausted from his previous ordeal, and without proper care after being discharged from the hospital, he was now lying in bed, barely clinging to life. He had no money for further treatment. In short, he didn't have much time left. Lily tried to run away, but Zhong Xuanzhou was furious and blocked her. In the struggle, Zhong Xuanzhou accidentally killed her. In the end, he was arrested and sentenced to several decades in prison. As for Lily's Ethan, he was also arrested for gambling. As for Sophia, she went looking for love, but her ex-boyfriend was still as promiscuous as ever. In the end, she lost everything, both her life and her wealth. These people all received endings that satisfy me. As for me, Grace. At this very moment, I'm lying in a villa 300 meters away, with 2 maids taking care of me, enjoying daily trips and shopping. Life is so enjoyable. The end.